Right, welcome to Introduction to Digital Audio Production Part 6. Me, Tom Cosm, or just Tom. So last time we were looking at, we're working on this breakdown now, so we're up to getting things stripped back and having some kind of build up, you know, like most dance music has, and then it drops. We went on a bit of a tangent last time, and we got a few ideas that we were developing. We were playing around with kind of using operator, using the FM synths. We weren't really using FM though, we were just having a play with the oscillators. So we kind of got that developed. The only issue is it sounds a little bit too kind of trancey to me, but I like the ideas of the sounds. So we've got one operator here kind of doing a call, and then we've got a synth stab doing a response, which is another operator. This operator has a saw wave, as you can see down here, for the oscillator, with a little bit of frequency modulation here. And this one has a square, just a single square wave as the oscillator. So the call and response technique is a really handy way to create a good constant flow through your tune. So I usually think throughout the entire process is tension release on all scales. For instance, this whole song we've got kind of, we're going to build up to this point. So we start with the intro, and we kind of build it up, and then we kind of tension, and then we drop it into the bass line, and then we build it up and up and up and up and up, and then we drop into the breakdown, and we build it up and we drop in. So that's on the large scale. On the smaller scales, we've got kind of every 16 bars or 32 bars we create a little fill or that kind of thing, another tension, and then we release it by dropping in a new theme with a crash cymbal or some white noise or whatnot. And you can even think of it on the very small scale, it's kind of a kick drum and a hi-hat on the offbeat. So you've got really little ones. It's all about creating this, well, you can think of it as a giant waveform going up and down if you want, with lots of little ones in between. So call and response, we'll get a little bit more into this later when we're starting to really add lots of interesting things to the song. Call and response is a really good technique, and by call and response I mean something calls out, something happens, and then you have another element which is completely different, well, not completely different, but different, respond to that call. It's used a lot in jazz music. You know, you get the drum solos where the drummer will play kind of a quick 4-bar drum solo, and then you know, the sax will come in and kind of try to copy what he did, but in its own unique way. It's a really good way of developing ideas. So that's what we've kind of done here, really. So there's the call, and there's the response. But again, it sounds a little bit too trancey arpeggiated for this particular tune. If we turn the solos off and listen to it, it's not bad, it's nearly there, but it's not quite how I'd like it to be. So I'm just going to leave that for now, because what I want to do is this bass line, when it drops in, because we've got this great idea, this call and response idea down here, that's a really good thing to drop into, and it's actually a little bit different than what the main tune is over here. So what I would like to do here is I'd like to actually modify this bass line, and modify it in a way that it's not so busy. We can drop in the busy stuff a little bit later on. Let's say at bar 145 we can bring in that bass line again when it's all busy, but if we could just drop it down to even a simple sine wave bass line, or just maybe a square wave with an envelope on the filter, so it's kind of a little bit punchy. Let's have a listen to this bass line. So listening to that, there's a few things we could do. We could duplicate the track like that, Control D or Command D, and so remember, we want the busyness to be gone up until bar 145, and we can actually delete this here. So now we can go into this new one. We'll call this bass stripped. Now I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use this technique, but let's have a listen to it anyway to see what it sounds like. I'm going to take this bass line back here, and I'm going to add an EQ in. Where are we? Add an EQ8. I'm going to take the fourth pole, I'm going to turn it into a low pass filter, and I'm going to bring it down until we've just got the sine. So it's not really punchy enough. The other alternative here is to actually recreate the bass line. Unfortunately, we've actually resampled it. So this is a bit of error on my behalf, but shit happens. We don't have the original MIDI file of the bass line, so we have to recreate it. But that'll be a fun task because this happens frequently, and it's a good skill to have. Just a quick idea, just in case. I'm going to delete that EQ8. I'm going to chuck in an auto filter and essentially do the same thing. It's in a low pass. Let's bring the envelope up. So bringing the envelope up means that each time a sound is fed into the auto filter, it's going to draw an envelope on this cutoff point using the attack and the release. This could be alright. Let's have a You can hear that filter opening and shutting really quickly every time there's a sound. If I bring the resonance up, you'll be able to really hear it. No, it still doesn't sound quite good to me. So let's recreate this in the bass. So I'm going to introduce a new MIDI track, and we're going to call it New Bass. Sounds good. Get rid of the auto filter on here. Oh, okay. Get rid of the envelope. So what we're going to do is introduce a MIDI clip, and we're going to try and emulate everything that's happening in this bass line with a new MIDI clip. Now I've looped a small portion of this, so we're going to work on this loop part and then this part and this part. It's just a little bit easier. I don't know how much you can comprehend, but if I was to listen to 8 bars of it and try to recreate that, it's a little bit too much. So working down in smaller chunks, it's a little bit easier. Let's even go down to 1 bar. So that's a pretty easy rhythm to duplicate. So on this new bass track, let's insert another analog. We'll make it a saw wave for now, just because we'll be able to hear the notes. Because we're working in the bass, we'll be able to hear the notes a lot better, and we'll be able to hear the pitches of the note a lot better because a saw wave has a lot more harmonics than, for instance, a sine wave. So let's insert a MIDI clip here. Command Shift M. And we'll solve this track. Okay, we'll just go into the analog, go to the envelope of the amplitude, bring the release time down. Hear how that note hangs on a little bit. We don't want that note to hang on, we want it to stop completely, and we also want the note to be on the entire time that it's held down, so we bring the sustain time up. Like that. For instance, if we drag the note right down. So let's try and copy that rhythm. I can hear in this bass line, it's all the same note, it's all the G. There we go, and that's long. Very good. Now we can move on to the next loop. That one's going to be a little bit more tricky because we've got some notes and other pitches. Insert a new track. Let's work with the notes that we know already, which is the G. So there's a G. Too high. It's probably easier to work backwards from here because we know we've got the notes pitched down. They go down in some fashion like this. leading down to that G. So it's probably easier if we work backwards, because because then the notes are always going to be close to each other, rather than having a giant interval, a large interval or difference of pitch, and the larger the more difficult it can actually be to distinguish. So we're going to start, so there's a note here. Now if I hold down the Option key or the Alt key and push space, it'll play from wherever the cursor is. So we want to play from here. It's actually here. And those are two Gs. What else we got here? Let's turn the filter off so we can really hear that note that we're trying to work on. If we get really stuck, we can zoom in and we can find where that note is. It's right here. Let's drag the loop point really small. Right down, we're going to have to... Oh, I don't think it'll let us. That's annoying. Let us do a smaller increment. Oh, I've never noticed that it won't let us go smaller than that. Oh well. It's that note there. So I think it's that note there. We could be wrong, we can amend it later. Maybe it's here. Sounds correct for me to me for now. Could drive you a bit loopy, so let's move on anyway. I think that might be this note. And I'll keep it where it was at. And let's move across a bit more. That one's a bit easier, lots of G's. MIDI clip. One's pretty easy. Move across. Another easy one. Oops, we are in the wrong octave. And we've got triplets on these notes. You can hear they're in a triplet instead of standard timing. So let's turn the triplet on the grid. 1, 2. Let's make the grid a bit smaller. So there we go. And that'll do us for now. So let's just keep that evolving. So now we can get rid of this whole track. We have our new bass line. Doesn't sound like a bass line at the moment. So what we can do is we can select all those MIDI clips. We can do a Command J, which is a consolidate, so it turns it into a new MIDI clip. Open it up, turn it into a loop, and here's our new bassline loop. What we need to do is we need to take it down an octave. Let's turn it into a sine wave for now, so we can get a big sub going on. See if we can go an octave below. Too much. Let's open it up. I'm going to select all the notes and I'm going to drag them all across a little bit by holding down the Command key, so they're all a little bit bigger. That's quite nice. No, that sounds good. Now let's duplicate this new bass, so we've got a high end of it. So we'll call this new sub, and we'll call this new high. So on this analog here, we can work on giving it a little bit of a overtone. I'm going to do that by using an operator again, because we can play with the filter envelopes. So let's have a listen. So at the moment, the oscillator of the operator set on a sine wave. Let's put it on a square. Alright, let's turn the filter on to cut off all those high ends. Quickly add in an EQ8 here and remove all the sub by turning the first pole into a high pass, because we don't want any subs to come through, because this one's handling all the subs. Great, so let's go back to the filter of the operator. Let's add some envelope to it. So this envelope here is defining this frequency point here, so it's going to give it a bit of a snap when it kicks in. You can see the line of the envelope, so the filter is going to go from that point down to that point. Bring the envelope up again. If we bring the decay time back a bit, it's going to make it more snappier. See what happens if we bring the oscillator down one octave. That's quite cool. That's quite cool. I think this new high, let's give it something to give it a bit of space. Let's see what we got here. We had a chorus. Bring the volume up. What could we do? Let's feed it through something. Saturator. Let's see what a saturator does to it. A saturator essentially saturates the sound. So let's bring the drive up. Where's the hi-hats? They're there. Let's have a listen to this high bass again. Let's try bringing the level of the second oscillator up. Remember, we'll go into the routing and we're going to change it to the last one, because we want all the oscillators to come out together rather than influence each other in a frequency modulated sense. So let's go back to this operator and this oscillator, turn it up. So at the moment it's on a sine wave. Let's change that to a square. It's got a bit more substance to it. Now for fun, I reckon what we should do is we should use FM. So let's send this oscillator into this one. So this one is the carrier signal, which is again a square wave, which is an octave above the low square wave. We're going to use this to modulate this one. So the output of this, which is a sine wave, is going to modulate this oscillator and change the sound. I'm going to mute this oscillator so we can hear how this is going to work. We have to go into the routing, and what we want to do is we want C to go into B, and B to go out, and A to go out. So if we look at our routing here, this is the one we want, right here. So you can see the D, which is the little kind of yellow square, or the orangey square, there's D, that's going straight out. Actually, no, this one's going to... This is... where are we here? No, this one, D, is going to affect all of the oscillators. So we want C going into B, which is blue going into green. Don't know if it's going to let us do that one. Alright, let's stick with this one here. So green is going to affect yellow, so B is going to affect A. We don't want that to happen, so let's bring B right down. But if we look here, we've got yellow affecting blue, so which is D affecting C, which is what we want. So we're going to use this operator as the carrier. So again, we need to change that one to a square. Remember, here's our octave. Not octave, of course. Now, this one, D, again, if we look, we can see D, orange, goes into blue. So now this one's going to affect this one. Bit of a tricky routing there, but... So I'll mute A again. Let's change the course of the D operator. A bit too much. What if we bring the course of this one down? Sound a bit too much. Sounds quite cool. I like it. What I'm going to do is going to bring down some of the mid frequencies around here and boost the high ones. So we've got a real snap to it. Trying to find a sweet spot. Let's have a listen to that. Not bad. Let's play with the filter a little bit more. Give it a bit more envelope. Bring the peak down a bit. Bring the decay out a bit. You can hear that decay knob will be quite fun to play with in the future. And the filter. So I like that. Let's go and have a look. And in those big notes, those big long notes, let's do a bit of a sweep with the filter. So I'm going to click on the filter knob and we get the filter envelope line here. Let's do a little subtle sweep up and down. That's quite cool. Let's do another one here. Let's add in a couple of points. And for fun, let's bring a few of these notes just up and down. Actually, that's quite cool. Let's change a few of those notes around. So just remember, we're playing with the cutoff automation line of this knob here. So wherever this line is here, it's going to change the frequency of the cutoff filter. We're really going to get this being very expressive. Bring that one up. Let's have a listen to that. Sounds good with these little, remember these little bassline edits we did before. I reckon that would sound good with a reverb. Let's add a reverb to that one. Make it really short size. Really short decay time. Getting the high part, the cutoff filter, the low pass down. Even shorter. Real subtle. And let's add in a compressor. And we'll just sidechain that to the kick to bring it down. And the kick, give it a bit of a pumping feeling. Bring the threshold down. Let's bring the fast hi-hats out. I reckon they're a bit too busy. We also need to add that compressor to the sub bass. So I'm going to select the compressor, hold down the Option, Alt key, drag it to the new sub. So we've duplicated it. Just so that kick really punches. Quite like that. So let's go down and again let's look at our what we're working on. Let's turn the pad on, see how that sounds. Let's have a listen to the build up. So now we can play with these call and response things. We're probably going to have to really change how they work. So as you can see, where I go all over the place, left, right, and do all kinds of tangents, but that's how you get the goods. It's all about just keep working at it until it sounds the best it can possibly be. And you'll learn a whole lot in the process. Let's make these notes really short. So I've selected all the notes, and I'm going to drag them really short all the way back. Grab the longest note, drag it all the way back, so every note is short, and then we've got to drag it out just a little bit so it actually makes a sound. Too much. And let's open up the operator and let's drag the course up and make it an octave higher. We can get rid of these low notes here, because that bass line is kind of quite cool and technical on its own. We'll do the same for this one. I really like that sound. Let's bring this up an octave as well, shortening the notes. Go in here, bring the chorus up. Get rid of the ping pong delay now. Super cheese. That's quite cool. Let's make this part here where they're both playing dance together a little better. Make that a G. Put a G down here. It's quite cool. See how I've used these notes to fill in the gaps where notes aren't playing in this one. Zoom in and have a look. See, we've got a note there. Whoops, don't click that. That one's a bit long. So I've got a note, note, then a note, note. Nothing here because the kick plays, so there's not much point putting one there. There, 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 and there. Copy this over. Got a delay on this one. Here we do filter delay. That's coming from here. Let's bring the volume down. Where's that coming from? Might be coming from here. Where's that funny note coming from? Because this is going in a triplet, because remember we have the bass line here going as a, so that's going in a triplet, but our arpeggiator is not. That's easy to fix. So from this point here we want these notes to be in a triplet. Okay, let's open this up. Let's go open this up. So it's from here to here. Let's go on a triplet grid. Put it on medium. Put it on, sorry, alright. And we have to do the same for this one. I'm going to create a new loop by selecting it and pushing Command or Control D, just so we don't screw up the rest of the loops. Put it on triplet. Right there and there. So you can get rid of that one. Maybe we don't need any here. Chord, don't like it. Alright, let's see what happens if we drag this loop out here. noise is a bit loud here. Not bad. Let's work on this bit a bit more. I'm still not sure if I like the melody when this comes in here. Let's make it less melodic. So yes, I am going to start from scratch with the melody. You do get to some points where you just have to do that. Let's play with this. I like that kind of triplet feeling. So my next idea is, we're a little bit stuck there. It's not really sitting with the bass line well. We're not going to redo the bass line, obviously, but I think what we should do is make it a little bit busier. So I'm just going to solo the high bass. We'll work with that. Let's open it up. Try and do this as quickly as possible. I'm just going to add in some more notes to make it a bit more busy. Bring the solo the kick in as well. Down to the sub. This sub, I'm going to replace it with an operator because, bring the oscillator right down. Let's bring the compressor up a bit so let's add a pitch envelope to it. So this is an envelope which is going to affect the pitch. We're going to do this so we can give it a bit of a punch. So if I bring the envelope right up, bring the peak right up and bring the decay right back, you can hear the pitch sound kind of like a kick drum. So it's obviously too much, just bring the envelope down a bit. See how it gives it a bit of a punch? I think what's missing from this is a little bit of swing and a little bit of shuffle. I'm liking how it's sounding, but it could do with a bit of groove. So if we go down here into our, this is the groove pool in Live, this is where all your grooves are. Now groove is kind of a set of instructions which you can overlay onto a MIDI clip or a sample. It's quite clever, you can do this onto a sample as well, like an audio file. This is where you can drag groove files onto a MIDI clip and it will apply, how can I explain it? It will apply a little bit of variation in the notes. Okay, think of a computer generated hi-hat line. Let's go down and have a listen. Let's go down to our hi-hats. Where are we? Right. So as an example, here's our hi-hats here. I'm going to take all the notes. I'm going to copy them so they go 1, 2, 3, 4. Hear the difference there? So if there's no groove, if I bring the groove up, kind of gives it a shuffle, like a human feeling. A good way to think of it as, you know, a jazz drummer with a just sounds a lot more funkier. Now this groove pull might come as a little bit of a surprise because I did start the series in Ableton Live 7 when this didn't exist. If you remember, there was a groove amount up here which was applied to pretty much the entire tune. Moving this project file to Live 8, it's created a new groove for us based on what we had this set up on here, which is this one here. So that's why the hi-hats are already like that. So we can get rid of that. We need to apply that to the bass line, and it's simply a matter of, let's just get them soloed. Here it's quite very computer generated, we want it to go so we can simply drag this onto these MIDI clips, but instead of that I'm going to duplicate it first. I'm going to rename it as bass or new bass, just so that we can adjust the settings of the groove here separate to the rest of the tune, just in case we'd like to make it a little bit more swung. So now, see how this new bass is kind of grayed out and all the boxes aren't really active? That's because it's not applied to anything. So if we drag this on top of the MIDI clip, like so, and on top of that MIDI clip as well, let's have a listen. If we didn't have it, and if we did. So the amount specifies how much of the groove gets applied to all of the grooves in the groove pool at this time. I can remove just the new bass groove by bringing down the timing here. Let's see if that sounds a bit better. Sounds quite cool. It still needs a bit of something. Might get rid of that reverb. Not sure if I like it. Change the square wave to a solo. Let's see how that sounds. No, I like the square. It's a saturator. Still lacking something. What have we got? Maybe give it a boost about there. Snare. Get rid of the snare for a second. I think that snare's a bit loud, so I'm going to add in a utility. Pick the gain knob, bring it down. Let's bring this bongos. Sounding a bit better. So now let's play with this again. So just duplicated what I was doing in this synth line down to this one, and let's just move this around timing. I've moved it down an octave and move it out of tone. Now these need the groove applied as well. Let's give them the same groove as we had on the bass line. Boom. Could work. It's a bit more rhythmic than melodic, but that's all good. We'll go into the synth stab, let's see what we got over here. Let's add a ping pong delay and play with really short delay times. It's always a fun, safe way to get something cool. So I've loaded up a ping pong delay on this line here. But instead of having it sync to time, to the beat, let's turn it off so it's synced to the time. Now, what we can also do is if we right-click on the title of ping pong, we can adjust how that delay tail kind of catches up if we were to change the time value while the delay is happening. And we can do that by setting it to repitch. So what happens is if there's a delay tail, I'll put the feedback right up so we can do this. If we move the time up, it repitches the delay. You see, if we have that just set on fade, which is actually quite a cool effect within itself, but I like this pitch one. And also does it the other way. I think we've just found a really good... Bring the dry wet down so there's more of the original rather than the delay. So now we could, let's play. Let's hit record and just play with that for a sec and try and record something cool. Just make sure there's no MIDI tracks armed when you hit record because it'll overwrite, so we get rid of that. Nope, that's it. Go back to the synth stab and we're just going to hit record and we're going to play with this time value and it will record the automation for us. Here we are. Actually, let's keep it consistent for now. What we can do is bring this back. So for the main build up. And we can record some automation here. So I'm just going to hit record. Slowly slow it down. I'm holding down the command key so I can do it very fine. Feedback up. Dry wet up. Alright, we're getting somewhere. So I accidentally recorded some automation here that I didn't want. For instance, the time there, that's not right. So I'm just going to drag that. I'm going to hold down Command or Control and delete. let's adjust this point. We're getting really fine increments down here, that's alright. We want it to be there. That's quite good. Let's have a listen again. Maybe let's bring the dry wet right out there, just so it's pure for a bit. Now that build up here, right here, I reckon we should have silence or something. So I'm going to select everything by clicking from the bottom of the master, dragging up just this little bar. So if we drag right up to the top, as far as we can go up, see it selected everything, delete. Ooh. So the things that are hanging on are the tail of this. So if we click on the dry wet value, we can select this and bring it right down because we don't want any, we don't want any sound there. And the reason it's still hanging on is because of the release here. So let's select this. Again, we've got the release of the amplitude of the oscillator. Let's bring it right down. And the white noise is hanging on too. To get rid of the white noise, let's automate the output of the compressor. So I've selected that line and done. And we can hear we've got a bit of pad as well. Just hanging on. What do we got down here? Again, output of the compressor is a good way to quickly mute something. Bit sloppy. Somebody will probably tell me off for that, but for a minute. We could bring a... what can we put in there? Put in a snare, that'll be good. And we want something leading up to that snare. Let's take this crash, duplicate the trash channel. Crash, rev crash for reverse crash, like so. We want it to build up to that point, so I'm dragging that back and I'm going to double click it, hit the reverse button down here on the sample tab, and it'll reverse the crash for us. A good wee trick is to pitch the crash symbol that's reverse just a little bit up or down so it doesn't sound the same pitch as this one. Let's pitch it. So we're just going to warp it, transpose it. Let's say 2. Or we could drag it out here. Let's open it up. Here it is. Let's change the BPM of it so it's really long. Actually, what we can do is just go ×2, and now the sample is exactly twice as long. So it'll be a bit pitch stretched, but it's alright. We'll bring the transpose right down. Change the way. This is where Ableton has a list of different logarithms for how it treats things which are stretched. So at the moment it's on beats. Let's pick something else. Beats is usually for beats, drum loops and stuff. Let's go complex, which is their special little one, which seems to stretch quite well for things like this. Maybe it's transposed a bit too much. All good. I reckon this could be a bit more intense. Where's that synth line? if we go to the time value, we just draw our own curve here, because it's getting a bit too short too quickly. So like that. Remember, see how the line's gone out grey? We don't want that to happen. That's because we've changed the parameter against what the line says. So it's now overridden it, but we click this little red box up here and it will snap back. So now it will actually do what the line says. That actually sounded quite cool. Let's keep that going for a bit longer. Kind of cool. Maybe a bit too long. Kind of like that. I think that white noise is still dominating. So we're working with the output of the compressor. Let's just select this part. Zoom in, just have a look, and we'll drag it down a bit. What if we bring this in as well, about halfway through? Let's just cut this and see what happens if we do something crazy like this. It's quite cool. Oops. Let's delete that one, select this, select all, hold down the command option key, push up, and we'll put everything an octave up, which didn't work. My apologies, it's shift up. It transposes everything an octave up or down. So what we could do here is, I reckon, take these notes. I'm going to consolidate the whole clip, Command or Control J. So now we have one big loop, which means we can go into the pitch bend envelope. So this is the envelope section. By clicking pitch bend, we can change the pitch of the note with this line. So let's double click, so it's going to start on the original pitch. Click here, this is when we want it to start doing something, and let's rise it up and up and up and up till it's right at the maximum value. Currently the maximum value will be set at, if we go down into the section of the operator, we can see that the pitch value is set at +5 semitones, so that means it's only going to raise 5. We want it to go up 12, an entire octave. So by this, and while we're at it, let's make this one intense as well. Go down to this oscillator. Let's bring the release time up. Okay, we need to tell us that the pitch has gone back to the original tone. also need to do it on this little one here, envelopes, pitch bend. Right, we're getting somewhere. I just want to listen to that one more time. Go right back here and we'll listen from this point here. I'll leave you on this note. Thanks for watching this part series. It looks like we're going to have a 7 and quite probably an 8. I'm having fun. I hope you are. And yeah, enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next part. Alright, tomcosm.com.